So this is a problem for the vice president, without a doubt. She needs to try to improve her standing among male voters. Hispanic voters are critical in both Arizona and Nevada. Biden won by 24 points, Harris only by 6 in Arizona right now. So this might not be as bad as it looks, but it's still bad, and one of the places the vice president has to do some improvement among men, among Latinos, most of all on the economy.
Vice President Kamala Harris, Democrats, and fake news media like CNN, they're all in total panic mode because they just got these new poll numbers that are not showing progress on her behalf. And it's the progress that she needs to have in order to win the election. So what does the Biden and Harris administration do? Well, they reach into their toolkit and they break out what they did in 2016 and 2020, and they start screaming, Russia, Russia, Russia. Watch.
Breaking news. The Biden administration taking a series of actions to target what they allege are attempts by Russian-backed actors to manipulate public opinion here in the U.S. ahead of the presidential election, according to 2 senior U.S. officials. Joining us now is NBC's Ken Delaney. Ken, what more have we learned?
Jose, this is being described by our sources as a whole of government action designed to target Russian propaganda and disinformation aimed at interfering in the 2024 election. It is said to include sanctions by the Treasury Department, law enforcement action by the Justice Department, and one of the focuses is on RT, formerly known as Russia Today, that network of Russian government-funded English-language websites and television platforms that was flagged all the way back in 2017 by the U.S. intelligence community as a vehicle for Russian disinformation and election interference. And at that time, the Justice Department required RT to register as a foreign agent. It remains to be seen exactly what actions the U.S. will take against RT today, but this does appear to represent an escalation in the efforts to try to purge the system of Russian propaganda and disinformation.
You guys let me know in the comments section. Have you seen anything that screams Russia propaganda? Because remember, this is the same party, the same administration that censored people off social media for disagreeing with them, right? So why would we believe them now, right? What credibility does Biden or Kamala Harris have as it pertains to information on social media? They have none. They censored us when it came to COVID. They censored us when it came to children and their rights. They censored us when it came to the election. I mean, why would I believe anything that they're saying? I wouldn't. Now, point number 2, they did this back in 2016. Remember, when Trump did win the election, first, they refused to acknowledge that he won. They couldn't even believe it. You remember Hillary Clinton called him an illegitimate president. But to make matters worse, they launched an investigation trying to prove that Russia manipulated the election by saying that they were colluding, Trump and Putin were colluding together to win the election. And what happened in the end? There was no evidence that showed that that was a fact. Not even evidence to suggest that was a fact. Nothing. Now, if you're wondering, well, how could she lose the election? Because men lie, women lie, and numbers don't. And we're going to start with the internal polling data and feedback by watching this.
So, Pennsylvania, key to the whole race right now in terms of the Electoral College. I've been asking people 2 questions in the state, national strategists and campaigns. 2 questions. One is, who's currently ahead in Pennsylvania? And where does Pennsylvania rank in terms of 1 through 7 of the states Harris is most likely to win? 1, it would be Wisconsin or Michigan. Then the question is, where's Pennsylvania? Some people have it as high as 3rd. Some people have it as low as 6th. One of my sources gave me a list and put it at 6th. And that led to the highlight of my day, which is, I hope we have that picture. But as you can see here, this source of mine, who I trust very much, very smart person, puts Pennsylvania 6th, the 6th most likely state for Harris to win. If that's true and Harris loses Pennsylvania, she's almost certainly not going to win. There are mathematical ways for her to win. Some of them go beyond mathematics, but very tough for her to win if she doesn't win Pennsylvania. I talked to 2 people today, Democrats who know the state very well, and they both said that they thought Harris not only was behind in Pennsylvania today, but they thought she was likely to lose the state. They didn't rule out that she could win it, but they thought it was unlikely. And if you believe that, what these people believe, and if you believe that what my source does, that her chances of winning Pennsylvania are quite low, you can't make her the favorite. And you almost can't even say this race is a toss-up, because Harris without Pennsylvania is not in a competitive competition. She could win it, but it's not a tied race.
Okay, so that was Mark Halperin, who is an American journalist, also a political analyst, just sounding the alarm on what we've been talking about after video, which is becoming more clear by the day, that she is not likely to win Pennsylvania at this point. And we're going to show you more videos why that is, because it has a lot to do with the gender gap and blue-collar workers. If she's less likely to win Pennsylvania out of all battleground states, we're talking Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, and Pennsylvania is second to the last on that list of the likelihood that she will win it, that is a problem for her campaign, because history has taught us if a Democrat or Republican wants the highest chance of winning the election, Pennsylvania is that state. And it goes back to my main belief or point around some of the mistakes her campaign has made, is the missing out on selecting Josh Shapiro as her running mate. I truly believe he could have made a difference for her. Now, to dive a little deeper on why she's likely to lose Pennsylvania has a lot to do with the gender gap and certain subgroups of the electorate. And this is what CNN finally is starting to tell the truth on, because CNN can select what polls they want to put forward. They don't have to put all polling, right? Because remember, there's so many people doing these polls, they get to select which ones they want to push because they have a narrative to stick to. But every now and then, they do finally publish information that is detrimental to the Kamala Harris campaign, and we're going to watch it now.
Well, now you go down deep in the polling today. Right. There were some warning signs for Harris and specific vulnerability with key voting groups. What are they?
So let's look first. The gender gap gets talked about a lot. Let's look at women voters. If you look at these numbers, Harris is essentially tracking Biden, a little better in some places. She would probably like to improve these numbers, but when it comes to women, look at Harris now and Biden 2020, and they're relatively good right there. She would like to improve them, obviously, because she's struggling. One reason you want to improve them is because she is struggling a bit among men voters, male voters, especially when you look out in the western states. In 2020, Trump won them by 2 points in Arizona. He's up 14. In 2020, 12 and 10, that's about the same. But if you look at Nevada, 8 plus 18 plus 5, so this is a problem for the vice president, without a doubt. She needs to try to improve her standing among male voters. And again, you can trace a lot of that back to the economy, and people just don't know a lot about her. Here's one other thing quickly I want to show you, though. Hispanic voters are critical in both Arizona and Nevada. And look at this. Biden won by 24 points. Harris only by 6 in Arizona right now. Biden won in Nevada by 26, Harris by 20. Smaller subset of voters here, so the margin of error is a little higher. So this might not be as bad as it looks, but it's still bad, and one of the places the vice president has to do some improvement among men, among Latinos. Most of all, that would help itself on the economy.
And what about independents and moderates?
So this is fascinating to me, and this just raises the stakes for the debate outside the chart here. Watch this when you bring it up. Independents and moderates, this is just independent voters, but the trend lines are similar with moderates. Look at how Trump is now winning in Arizona, in Georgia, in Michigan among independents, right? Biden won all of these battleground states among independents back in 2020. This is an area the vice president needs to improve her standing. Voters in the middle. These are people who self-identify as independents. You see very similar numbers among people who self-identify as moderates. She's struggling in the middle. She is viewed as more liberal than moderate Joe Biden. And so she's struggling a bit in the middle. But
the reason why she's not getting the male vote in this country, or men out in large numbers to vote for her, is not because she is a woman. But it's her energy, it's her confidence, it's her delivery, it's the fact that she cannot speak off script. Why, as men, would we allow someone like that to lead us? That does not make any sense. Now, that is not a gender thing, that is a competency thing. And to give you more clarity, if Condoleezza Rice was running for president, right, this would be a totally different conversation. But she's not. Even Hillary Clinton is definitely more coherent, can speak unscripted, and can demand more attention and can look confident in what she is saying. That's not Kamala Harris. So it's not a gender thing. It's her delivery. It's her appearance. It's her record. So that's why she's not going to get men in large numbers to vote for her. It just is not going to happen. So she's banking on the fact that she's going to bring a lot of women out to vote. And that's why they're pushing the reproductive story or talking point, because it's emotional, it's triggering. It's the same playbook that Biden was using in 2020. Hey, Trump is a racist. He doesn't like black people, right? George Floyd, that was a triggering talking point to get black people to show up for Joe Biden. Remember, he got 93% of the black vote in 2020. Right now, she's polling at somewhere around 84%. And CNN continues to bring this point home. Watch.
If you look at the white voters without college degrees, this is a Trump base constituency, obviously. You see his huge numbers with this group. You see that this is a trouble sign for Harris. She also, in a place like Georgia, is not doing well with white college-educated voters. She probably wants to make up some ground with white college-educated voters across these battlegrounds as well, Kate.
So take a look at these numbers. I mean, that is a huge issue for her. And non-college voters who are white, obviously Trump is going to win those like he did in 2020 and 2016. What's more alarming is not them, but they didn't even put it on the screen. It's the college-educated voters, because historically college-educated voters swing more Democrat when Trump is running, of course. And she is in trouble in that area as well. Now, this all sounds like a bunch of doom and gloom for her campaign, but don't get it twisted. There's plenty of people going on CNN and trying to minimize this. And that's why you have someone like Kate who's coping over these numbers and trying to make excuses on why this is actually a good thing and not necessarily a bad thing. Now, before you get all up in arms about her delusional response, just understand they also brought on Scott Jennings, who's going to give her a reality check. Watch.
So, Kate, Harris is up in Wisconsin and Michigan. Let's just start with that, where John started. And these are massive turnarounds over the past weeks from Biden, and now outside the margin of error. Do you feel great about this?
I feel good. I feel encouraged. I wouldn't say I feel great, because I think the totality of the numbers show that this is still and is going to be an incredibly, incredibly close race. We just heard John go through it. I think what the numbers today show is that Kamala Harris has more pathways, more conceivable pathways to 270 than Trump does, or at least than Trump felt like he did 6 weeks ago when Joe Biden was at the top of the ticket. I think there's no question his path has narrowed. So I think these numbers should give Democrats, they should be heartened. I think it's showing that she continues to build strength in the coalition that she needs to win. And as John was just saying, that she has room to grow. Trump, I think, probably has a little bit less room to grow, in part because he is so well defined. I think it is encouraging. I don't think by any stretch the Democrats should view this as a slam dunk, though. There is a long way to go in this race, and it's clearly very, very close.
I mean, Scott, obviously a few weeks ago, pretty much all those swing states, Trump thought he had it locked up. He was talking about New Hampshire, right? So it is a small solace to say, oh, well, she's only up 1% in Georgia. We can still do that. I mean, it's still got to be pretty grim to look at these for Trump's team, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, he was underestimated badly in several of these states by a lot of polling in 2016 and 2020, including in some CNN polling, I might add. I agree with Kate. I think it's an incredibly close race. Either of these candidates could win any of these states we're talking about. And I also agree with John that the ticket to victory for the middle and for some of these male voters that they're competing for is really to talk about the economy. I had to chuckle a little bit today listening to her talk about her tax policy. I mean, she's like, see, Joe Biden's tax policy is only going to kill you as much as, Jason Voorhees. But I'm more like Mike Myers. See, isn't that better? No, it's not better. They're both scary as hell. And either way, you're going to be dead. And so I think she's going to have to come up with something a little better than I'm going to raise your taxes a little less than Joe Biden is if she wants to do economic competition here
on the capital gain specifically.
If you're out there and you're an independent voter, you have to understand that whatever's taken place over the last 3.5 years that you probably don't like, it's more likely it's going to continue to happen if Kamala Harris becomes the next president, because all you need to do is judge people based on what they do, not on what they say. What has she done up to this point in her entire career? She is one of the most left-leaning politicians in Washington. That is a fact. Now, all of a sudden, we want to believe she had a coming to Jesus moment and she's just this moderate Democrat. Absolutely not. Come on, guys. All right, so this brings me to my final points for you. Number one, Kamala Harris is a weak candidate. I've said this multitude of times already. if you take the entire list of who potentially could have been the Democratic nominee, she would not be top 5. Let's just call it what it is, okay? So point number 2 is that this whole Russia hoax, right? You guys have to really pay attention to what they're trying to do here, okay? Poll numbers are not where even sleepy Joe Biden's poll numbers were. What's the next best thing? Well, let's dig back into our playbook and run the Russia hoax. That's what they're doing. And finally, to a point I made earlier in the video, male voters are not going to vote for Kamala Harris. She does not strike me as someone that, even though I don't agree with her policies, I could see why she would be president. And I don't think a lot of men see that, especially blue collars, especially white men, black men, Latino men. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. Men overall are not going to support Kamala Harris. And it's not because of gender. It's because of all those other attributes that I pointed out. And that is my opinion. What about you? What's yours? What do you guys think about this new polling data that dropped? What do you think about the fact that the administration and Democrats are trying to run cover for her by launching the hoax again around Russia to potentially use it as an excuse on why Trump might win? I mean, it's really quite fascinating when you truly take a step back and see all of this. I want to hear what your thoughts are and more in the comments section below. Thank you for checking out the video today. If you want to support the channel, you guys know what to do. Go to the link in the description, grab yourself a t-shirt. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Stay grateful, stay focused, and stay true. Peace.